TBTL.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Hey Dummies. I'm Andrew, and I'll be your dummy today. I'm joining you from the car in the middle of one of those just terrible Seattle winter days that everybody complains about so much around here. I mean, I just don't know how we survive these mid-January days when it's 52 degrees and beautifully sunny outside. Anyway, I'm happy. I'm in a good mood to be enjoying this weather. I might even clean this gross-ass car a little bit today, but first I'm on my way to Best Buy, where I got to get myself a new hard drive. I could spend this entire video telling you about the issues I've been running into over the past 24 hours with hard drives and how they interact with my television and formatting NTSF versus exFAT versus, look at that giant truck going behind me. Oh, glad I'm not taking his spot. I thought I was going to get in trouble here for a second. Anyway, I'm going to Best Buy to get a new hard drive and format it in a different way that will hopefully work with my television. That's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to answer your questions. That's what the Hey Dummies video is all about. You email me, Andrew at tbtl.net. You put Hey Dummies in the subject line and you ask a question and you expect Luke or I to answer it, and your expectations will most likely become a reality. I just turned the air down a little bit. Was that too loud before? Here's the question that comes from our pal Jake in Chicago, who says, what's an interaction or something someone once said to you that felt rude or offhanded at the time, but has stuck with you and resulted in you changing something about yourself or your life in a positive way? I don't know if I can tell this as a short story, but I will try. But when I was living in New Hampshire as a recent college graduate in my early 20s, I was hanging out with a lot of the people that I worked with at New Hampshire Public Radio. I was, of course, the youngest one of the set. I was a new, fresh hire. And so I kind of looked up to everybody there as more seasoned journalists. Some of them only a few years older than me, but had been working there for a while. And a big chunk of our friend group also included other journalists in the area. A lot of them worked for the Concord Monitor, other various newspapers, I think maybe the Union Leader. Also a lot of politicos, people who worked with campaigns, were kind of, even, they were young, but like up-and-comers who were working with big national campaigns that were coming through New Hampshire for the first in the nation primary. And so all of this is to say, I am not a very confident person, generally speaking, both in, my profession, I would say, but also in social situations. And hanging out with all of these people, I basically looked up to everybody, even my, people who were essentially my age. I always felt like the dumbest guy in the room and the shyest guy in the room. And one time, but I've always felt that way. And Genevieve and I had a big, nice group of friends that we hung out with. Some of whom I knew better than others. Anyway, one time I was at this party and I gravitated towards hanging out in the kitchen with a few other people. Again, that's sort of my move. I think a lot of people can kind of associate with that. I don't do well in big groups. And again, these kinds of parties or get-togethers, I would be easily intimidated by the conversation. So I'm hanging out in the kitchenette area, or the kitchen area of this apartment, and I'm hanging out with my friend Josh. Now, Josh is a very aloof guy, and everybody kind of looks up to him, I think, or certainly, in this context and around this time. He was a very aloof guy. He was an investigative journalist, and people just had a lot of respect for him, and also he was kind of quirky. And he was dating a woman who worked for the newspaper, and I had, I knew her because they were dating and we were in the same friend group, but I didn't know her all that well. And I thought she was the epitome of coolness. I mean, she was a very respected reporter and just a really cool character. And so I was probably especially shy around her. We never talked all that much. And then we were hanging out in the kitchen. Me and Josh are hanging out in the kitchen, and his girlfriend comes in. And maybe they're just kind of first dating around this time. And we're making small talk. And she said something, and I'm blanking on the details of it, but she said something about me and kind of being like, she's like, well, of course, you're too cool for that or something. And I I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I remember saying, wait, what are you talking about? And it became clear in a very quick moment, but an important moment in my life, that at least this one person took my kind of shyness and hesitancy to engage with people who I looked up to as an aloofness of my own. And that she sort of thought that I was walking around thinking that I was too cool for school all the time, thinking that I was like this guy who fancied myself a hipster and maybe wasn't chatting people up as much because I'm aloof, and maybe thought I was better than everybody else. Those were not the words she used, but essentially that was what I kind of learned, was like, oh, people see me differently than I see myself. If I'm going around maybe not being as chatty as I could be because I'm personally nervous inside of betraying my stupidity or social awkwardness, other people are like, that totally normal guy over there is being totally aloof and he thinks he's better than us. I don't know if this was widespread or not. And again, this was in my early 20s, but man, did that have an impact on how I looked at myself and how I looked at others. And it's hard. This was a long time ago, so it's hard for me to explain exactly how it manifests in my life now, or if it's as relevant now as it was then. But at the time, boy, did that hit me hard. And I think I was probably gave me confidence, first of all, that people weren't just looking at me and just immediately seeing an idiot. And also being a little bit more careful about how I come off, and trying to maybe be a little bit more gracious and not just assuming that my shyness is coming off as a sort of, I don't know, that my shyness, I don't want it to come off as aloof as opposed to just me minding my own business. So anyway, things really fell apart with my story there at the end. Something about having to know words in order to tell a story really helps. Anyway, Jake, good question. Got me thinking, got me reminiscing. By the way, those two people, Josh and his girlfriend, married now, very successful. In fact, I got to check in with them. All right, everybody. I hope you have a really good weekend. I'd love to answer a question from you. Luke would love to answer your questions. We don't have tons right now, and the ones we have been sort of kicking around for a while. So why don't you send us some fresh questions? Andrew@tbtl.net. I'm going to go enjoy this beautiful winter day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.